Welcome back to That's Debatable. Today's debate, powered by Cisco Webex, is all about two of the best commentators that golf has ever seen. Which of them is the best, Johnny Miller or Brandel Chamblee? We've got Jonathan Wall going up against Alan Bastable, two men on our staff with plenty of hot takes of their own. Jonathan, would you like to go first or defer?
I will go first.
All right, let's hear it.
Before I start, though, let me just put on my shades to block out all of those terrible Brandel Chamblee takes. Honestly, I don't even know why we're having this debate. This is McDonald's versus McDowell's. Shout out Coming to America and Eddie Murphy. One is the leader in the space while the other is nothing more than a pretender. And that's exactly what we have here. Trying to compare Johnny Miller, a true alpha, against Brandel Chamblee. Johnny Miller spent 30 years as an analyst for NBC's golf coverage. 30 years. In a space where there's tons of analyst turnover, he's been one of the leading voices in professional golf. He coined the phrases backboards, fault lines, sideboards to describe slopes and green tiers, lean and squeeze fade, and one of my favorites, Campbell's chunky, to describe golf shots. But what really made Johnny a leading voice in this space was his ability to shoot straight when it came to his commentary. He wasn't afraid to go head-to-head with the best players in the world and outright question their decisions. He even went so far as to use the word choke on occasion. He is the OG when it comes to strong golf takes and paved the way for others. One guy, Brandel Chamblee, Johnny gave him a blueprint for how to succeed in this space, even though I don't think... All
right. You reached your 60 seconds. Alan Bastable, do you have something to get under those hater blockers?
Oh, man, I don't even know where to start with that. Listen, I'm so glad that Wall mentioned the famous choke call. You know, Johnny Miller never called Peter Jacobsen a choker. He said this is a situation where a player might choke. That was back in 1990. He built an entire career off something he didn't even say. But this isn't about Johnny. It's about my guy right here, Mr. Brandel Chamblee. Listen, comparing Miller and Chamblee, that's comparing like George Mikan or Bob Cousy to LeBron James. I mean, these guys are playing different games. Johnny would say a few things on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, pack it up, go home. Brandel, he has to defend himself to his 200,000 Twitter followers. He has to jump on a podcast the next day. By the way, has he ever said no to a podcast? That guy is everywhere. He writes columns. He's on Golf Channel. He's on NBC. Everywhere you look, there he is, Brandel Chamblee. The guy is fearless. He will go after any player on the planet, from Tiger to Phil to entire Ryder Cup teams. The guy will say anything to anyone, and for that reason, he remains peerless in the commentary space.
All right, Jay Wall, there's something that Johnny Miller doesn't have, and that's a Twitter account. I feel like that's a big deal here.
It doesn't matter. He has something that Brandel does not have. It's the cachet. The guy's won 2 majors. He has 25 PGA Tour wins, 2-time Ryder Cupper. He has the cachet and the respect of guys because he's been there before. He's able to give those hot takes, and people know that he's been in those situations. Unlike a guy who has a single tour event win in Vancouver.
There we go. I knew it was coming.
He has carte blanche to take pot shots, most of them unwarranted, at everyone in the sport.
Alan, do you think Brandel does his homework?
Listen, Brandel, everyone knows Brandel does his homework, right? He's as likely to drop a Da Vinci reference as he is a DeChambeau reference. The guy has played in 14 major championships. He led a Masters after 18 holes, has a PGA Tour win. He is way more qualified than 99.9% of, golfers or other analysts out there. And listen, to say he's not qualified to talk about the best players in the world, well, that's like saying you're not qualified to talk about golf equipment because you don't engineer clubs. Total nonsense. The guy is qualified. He's prepared. He's addictive. People want to listen to this guy. He sets the agenda. When there's controversy, when there's big stories, it doesn't matter. All everybody wants to hear is, what is Brandel's take? The same was not true of Johnny Miller.
I think that is a very important point. At the end of the day, what happens every time we go to a major as a staff? We go home that night after working all day, and where do we tune in? We tune into Live From to see what Brandel has to say. I'm going to side with Alan Bastable here. You're going to move on to today's That's Debatable.
No chance. What?
No.